So this was the Vodafone issue that we were talking about some time back. The impact of that is already, the budget is already out. Barely 2 weeks back, companies, for example, EXL is a BPO company which I think had recently acquired a foreign company. And the budget has just come out and they have applied for a advance tax ruling. So clearly this has set a cat among the pigeons, and companies are now quickly trying to work with the tax authorities to get advance tax rulings. Typically advance tax ruling means that even before there is a judgment saying that you are not supposed to be doing that, or is not or this is as per the rules or not as per the rules, they get an advance intimation from the tax authority saying that this is, this transaction is okay and you will not get taxed. But the fact is that it cannot be enforced. And what really this does is it has created a whole bunch of uncertainty around transactions. And it's making it very difficult for companies. So whether this whole thing is good or not is anybody's guess. It depends on who you talk to. You talk to the government, they think it's a great idea to do retrospective taxation. It's very easy for them to put it into a law and pass it as a law. But it is very difficult when it comes to investors, because how do people make investment decisions? So foreign companies come into India, they have to do so many business analysis, what are the returns you get out of your investment. They have to report to their parents, to their shareholders, everybody, and based on that they make decisions on where to invest, what to invest, how much to invest. And then all of a sudden, boom, the law itself is changed with retrospective effect. And now you really don't know where you stand, what you need to do, what you should do, whether the next thing that I do is the right thing to do. It's creating a lot of confusion. So, you can argue it many different ways. Maybe, in fact, we don't even know for all this if this is one of the ways in which to cut down fiscal deficit. I'm not sure if it will come this year in the first place. All this is going to run into litigations. People are not going to just say, okay, come, I'm going to write you a check. That's not going to happen. It's going to take a lot of time. It will probably take years to collect that kind of money. I can see two sets of people actually benefiting out of this. One of them is the lawyers, for sure. They are going to enjoy. This is a blast. It's a boom time for them. And then, of course, we have our esteemed friends, our consultants, E&Y. I'm sure they'll have a lot of business coming. So, and by the time the money comes in, the government is gone. So, it'll be interesting to see how all this pans out. Again, APA, some of my colleagues had spoken about it. This again has a big impact on our industry, because a lot of the companies, particularly if you see in the software industry, they are captive companies, right? So they have related party transactions. So for those of you who are not really familiar with this, transfer pricing typically applies to related company transactions, though of course so far it's been between overseas company and an Indian company, but that has now been extended to domestic companies as well. In the case of captive companies, where the local company delivers services to the foreign company, holding company, there is something called a transfer pricing agreement for related company transactions. Now, there was something called a dispute resolution panel which was there earlier because it was actually possible for companies to play around with the transfer pricing agreement in terms of how you do pricing. You do it in such a way that you deflate your profits and therefore pay very less tax. This was resulting in a lot of issues, and I think they set up a dispute resolution panel which didn't really work out because it meant officers of the Indian tax authorities to be involved in it, officers of the foreign companies, tax authorities to be involved. Each tax authority of each country would have their own viewpoints on how it should be taxed, because the foreign company wants to keep the revenues there. The Indian authorities want to keep the revenues here. So the resolution was becoming very complex and difficult and unwieldy. So that's how this advanced pricing agreement has come about. So even before the transaction is entered into, they take advance approval for these pricing agreements, and they run it past the tax authorities and make sure that the tax authorities are kind of somewhat convinced that it's an arm's length transaction, as if the same would have applied had they dealt with a non-affiliated company. So I think, in my view, this is a very good step forward to reduce uncertainty in the way transfer pricing agreements are handled. So one good step forward. The other one is the GAR. Again, that's a big impact to all companies, not just to the ITC, to the IT companies. This has been introduced ahead of the direct tax code to curb sophisticated tax avoidance, to provide for declaring any arrangement as impermissible avoidance arrangement. This is just to make sure that where there is absolute clear intent of avoiding tax using some loopholes, etc., and in those situations, GAR comes in and they'll make sure that the government has a lot of authority to go and tax these companies. On the indirect tax front, from IT perspective, again, common tax code for service tax and excise is a good thing. That would be helpful. From a excise and service tax perspective, the increase from 10 to 12% has basically increased our cost as well, because whatever services we receive from the companies, service companies, and this applies to a whole bunch of other companies as well. So basically the cost is going up. The excise duty rates have actually increased. So we used to have 1, 5 and 10% earlier. Now that has been increased to 2, 6 and 12% respectively. So again, that basically means the cost of the computers will actually increase by 2%, and that can vary from 600 to 10,000 to 12,000 depending on the configuration of your product. So that basically means the consumers have to pay more for these products. The GST implementation, again, it's not just IT impact, but a much larger impact right across. No date has been announced, but what they have said is the GST network will be implemented by August 2012. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. That will basically ensure that all the respective tax jurisdictions will be kind of connected over the network, and that will be really good. It will be a good precursor to the GST itself. The earlier panel members have spoken about all services being taxed except for the ones in the negative list. So the finance minister has basically used a broad brush and taxed literally anything under the sun, and other than those in the negative list. There is a retrospective amendment made to allow SENVAT credit where services are rendered to SEZ. Companies like ours We had been struggling with this for quite some time, and we had actually gone into a refund kind of mode earlier, and that also we were not getting the money. Now we believe that with this SENVAT credit, the process gets much easier, because if you go the refund route, basically what happens is you have already paid the money and you are seeking a refund from the government. It really gets tough, because most of the time what happens is there's a large chunk of money which is supposed to be paid by them, and they don't have the funds, or for some reason or the other the money just doesn't come, and we lose a lot of interest because of that. But this makes it much easier, because this basically means it's an adjustment in the books. What is payable by you is getting adjusted by what is receivable. So it's a book adjustment kind of thing. So that makes it much easier. So that is with respect to